There is a sickness in the world, and you can feel it every time you open your eyes. Men wander through life without direction, without mission, without the certainty of their own worth. The old codes have collapsed. The maps have burned. Everywhere you look, leaders have become cowards. Followers have become cynics, and the line between wisdom and confusion grows thinner by the hour. Masculinity is on trial in every courtroom, every boardroom, every living room. Men are told to step aside, to apologize for the gravity in their voice, to shrink their ambition, to erase their edge. A culture that once depended on men to build, to protect, to dare, now teaches them to become small, agreeable, ornamental. But you feel it, a hunger that will not be tamed, a need that comfort cannot satisfy, a rage that cannot be sedated. This is the call that Alfred Adler heard and answered, the courage to lead. Adler was a man who understood the war raging beneath the surface of every man's soul. He saw a world not of victims and villains, but of individuals called to create meaning, to rise above their wounds, to carve out their own legacy in a universe that owes them nothing. He rejected the chains of determinism, the lie that your past is your prison. He burned away the fog of excuses that keep men waiting for permission. For Adler, leadership is not a privilege handed down from thrones or bloodlines. It is a responsibility seized in the fire of decision, claimed by the man who has the courage to stand alone, to risk ridicule, to bear the weight of consequence. You cannot lead if you live in fear. You cannot build if you are forever apologizing for your existence. Look around. Men have traded authority for approval, vision for safety, pride for comfort. They have become experts at second-guessing themselves, artists in the theater of indecision, philosophers of inaction. The world tells you to defer, to cooperate, to keep your voice low and your ambitions hidden. But a leader's first duty is not to be liked, but to be right, not to be safe, but to be true. Adler taught that the foundation of all greatness is the will to power, a will not to dominate, but to serve, not to exploit, but to elevate. True leadership is born the moment you stop seeking validation and start seeking meaning. The crowd will always resent the man who refuses to kneel, who dares to say, "I know where I'm going." You will be mocked, resisted, misunderstood. But if you wait for the world to understand you before you act, you will wait forever. Men have been trained to believe that leadership is a relic, a toxic echo of an outdated world. They are told that to want power is to be a threat, that to speak with certainty is to be a tyrant, that to make demands is to be abusive. But weakness, Adler knew, does not create peace. Weakness breeds chaos. Where there are no fathers, no kings, no captains, the world falls to pieces. In every age, the lack of masculine leadership leaves a vacuum that is quickly filled by cowards, manipulators, and parasites. Look at the world now, directionless, anxious, drowning in distraction. Men and women alike are desperate for someone to lead, for someone to say, "I will take the risk. I will accept the consequences. I will build something, even if I am hated for it." But modern men are taught to fear their own shadows. They are told to be agreeable, to defer to the loudest voice, to fit in. The result? A generation that cannot decide, cannot commit, cannot inspire. A culture that punishes excellence and rewards mediocrity. A world that starves for the return of courage. Courage is not born in comfort. It is forged in pain. Adler knew this. His own life was a testament to it. Sickly, underestimated, always the outsider. He did not inherit his voice. He built it, step by bloody step, in defiance of every voice that told him to sit down and wait his turn. The courage to lead is the courage to be wounded and keep moving, to be mocked and stay upright, to be abandoned and walk on. every man who would lead must first be willing to be alone. You will not be understood at first. The leader is always alone before the crowd follows, always doubted before he is obeyed, always hated before he is respected. The courage to lead is the courage to withstand the loneliness of conviction. It is the willingness to be the first to speak, the first to act, the first to pay the price. Most men shrink from this burden. They would rather be liked than right, would rather be safe than true. They drown their dreams in the approval of others, kill their vision with the poison of doubt. But nothing grows in the desert of consensus. Nothing great is built by committee. All progress begins with the man who refuses to wait for permission. Adler's leadership is not about domination. It is not the cheap authority of the bully, the tyrant, the narcissist. Real leadership is rooted in service. Service to a cause greater than the self. Service to a brotherhood that does not yet exist. Service to a vision that burns so fiercely you are willing to be destroyed for it. The leader is not the man with the loudest voice, but the one who speaks when it is dangerous to speak. The leader is not the one who is never afraid, but the one who acts in spite of fear. The leader is not the one who forces others to follow, but the one who makes it impossible not to. There is a reason men are adrift. They have not been shown how to lead themselves. They are taught to wait for instruction, to follow the script, to check every box. But the courage to lead is born the moment you stop asking for directions and start forging your own. Adler rejected the idea that your past, your wounds, your failures define your future. He believed that a man can rise from anything, provided he has the courage to set his own course. Self-leadership is the first and hardest battle. You cannot rule others if you are a stranger to your own soul. You cannot inspire men if you are haunted by the ghosts of your own regret. You must begin by claiming sovereignty over your mind. The world is a battlefield of distraction. 1,000 voices pulling you away from your center. 1,000,000 temptations begging you to sell your integrity for comfort. You must become ruthless with your own thoughts, relentless in your pursuit of clarity, uncompromising in your demand for truth. The leader does not think with the crowd, does not feel with the mob, does not move with the herd. He stands alone in his own mind, judges himself by his own law, and answers to no one but his highest vision. Adler's courage was not an accident. It was a discipline. He taught that every man must find his mission, his reason for being, his answer to the question that no one else can answer for him. What will I build, and for whom? Without a mission, a man is lost, a leaf in the wind, a pawn in someone else's game. With a mission, a man becomes unbreakable. He cannot be bought, cannot be seduced, cannot be owned by anyone but himself. Every true leader is driven by purpose. Every true leader is haunted by the need to make meaning out of chaos, to leave behind something that will last after he is gone. The world will tempt you to abandon your mission. It will promise you comfort, applause, security. It will punish your ambition, shame your hunger, mock your pain. You will be told that leadership is arrogant, that striving is dangerous, that wanting more is a crime. But mediocrity is a slow death. The leader does not shrink in the face of envy. He does not apologize for his strength, his vision, his need to create. He knows that every man who ever mattered was first hated, then envied, then followed. The courage to lead is the courage to endure the world's misunderstanding, to bear its scorn, to face its resistance and keep building anyway. Most men surrender before the work even begins. They give up at the first sign of hardship, retreat at the first insult, collapse at the first loneliness. They never learn that the price of leadership is always pain. Adler's own life was marked by struggle, exile, conflict. He was never the favorite son, never the chosen hero. but he made himself necessary. He led, and in leading, he found his own redemption. Leadership begins in the willingness to suffer. You cannot build if you cannot bleed. You cannot inspire if you cannot endure. The leader is the man who takes the arrows meant for others, who walks through the fire that would destroy the crowd. The world does not reward this at first. There is no applause for the man who stands alone. But in time, all eyes turn to the one who did not break, the one who did not kneel, the one who dared to carve his own path. Men today are taught to doubt their instincts, to suppress their aggression, to question their drive. But Adler knew that masculinity is not a disease to be cured. It is a force to be channeled, a power to be harnessed, a gift to be cultivated. The courage to lead is the courage to accept your own strength, to stop apologizing for your ambition, to turn your hunger into creation, your anger into clarity, your fear into fuel. You will be called every name for this. You will be accused of cruelty, of arrogance, of madness. You will be tested by the smallness of others, by their envy, their resistance, their rage. But this is the crucible of leadership. The fire does not destroy the true leader, it purifies him. Every insult is a sharpening stone. Every betrayal is a lesson. Every loss is a step closer to mastery. Adler rejected the lie that you must wait for the world to grant you permission to lead. Leadership is an act of will, an act of rebellion, an act of faith in your own vision. You must choose every day to step into the unknown, to risk failure, to risk pain, to risk everything for what you know is right. There are no guarantees, no safety nets, no rescue from the loneliness of command. But there is freedom, there is purpose, there is the unbreakable peace of a man who knows who he is, who knows what he stands for, who knows that he has given everything to the cause that chose him. A leader is not born, he is made. Made in the darkness, made in the silence, made in the moment he refuses to wait, refuses to beg, refuses to settle for less than everything. The courage to lead is the courage to die to comfort, to die to the approval of others, to die to the need for safety. Only then are you free to build. If you seek comfort, you will never lead. If you crave applause, you will never lead. If you demand guarantees, you will never lead. But if you crave meaning, if you crave the fire of challenge, if you crave the chance to write your own law, then you are ready for the only life worth living. The world is desperate for men who are willing to risk themselves for something greater. Men who refuse to let the confusion of the age steal their vision. Men who refuse to wait for permission. Men who have the courage to lead. You will lose along the way. You will lose the respect of the crowd, the affection of the small, the comfort of the herd. You will lose friends, lovers, certainty, ease. You will lose every illusion that made you weak, but you will gain your own respect. You will gain the trust of men who matter. You will gain the peace that comes only from doing what you were born to do. Adler believed that life itself is a summons to leadership, a summons to rise, to create, to serve, to build something worthy of your suffering. Every man is called, few answer. Every man is given the raw material of his own struggle, his own longing, his own pain. It is up to you to turn it into strength, into vision, into legacy. The confused world will always tempt you to step back, to apologize, to become harmless. But the courage to lead is the courage to embrace your own power, to direct it with wisdom, to spend it in the service of a mission that outlives you. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to be liked. You are here to build, to lead, to leave the world stronger than you found it. If you hear this and something inside you burns, if you are sick of waiting, sick of apologizing, sick of living small, then you are already on the path. Like this message, if it lit the fire, and subscribe. The courage to lead is the courage to become yourself. Not the self handed down by your past, not the self approved by the crowd, but the self you build